Welcome to the Get Organized HQ podcast. I'm your host, Tasha Lawrence. Every week, we share practical strategies for less stress and more peace as we dive into all topics life and home organization. I'm so glad you're here for this week's episode. And I am excited to sit down with you and with Anna Dearmon Kornick today to talk about some practical strategies for less stress and more peace in your daily routine. Anna is the host of the It's About Time podcast, and also she released a book back in 2023 called Time Management Essentials. So she is the time management queen. If you want help, tips, tricks for managing your day, managing your time, and productivity, you are in the right place. I'm so excited for you to hear, especially about her theme days. This is something I don't know if I'd ever heard of this concept before. I think it's going to be a game changer for so many of you. So glad you're here. Listen in. Well, I'm really excited to sit down with Anna Dearmon Kornick today and talk through just our daily routine and probably some productivity and time management hacks and tips as well, because Anna, I know that is what you specialize in. So thank you so much just for taking the time to sit down and chat with us today.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for having me. This is going to be so much fun.
Absolutely. So I typically just dive in by inviting our guests to share, what does a day in your life look like? Like, what are some of the things that make up your day, your week? You can share in as much detail, or some people give an hour by hour. So go ahead and just let us know, what's it like to be Anna for a day?
That's a really fun question. And I might surprise you by telling you that even as a time management coach, I don't follow a super rigid timed out schedule. That's just not really how I roll. That's not how most people roll, and that's okay. Time management doesn't have to mean being super rigid and precise. It's really all about managing your time in a way that works with you, your life, and your personality. And that's the way that I live it. And so, first things first, I am not a morning person. Mornings are super rough for me. So I do everything that I can do to prepare for my mornings the night before or on the weekends. So I try to have some pretty, as low key mornings as possible. My ideal morning, man, I am heading outside to sit on our back porch and drink coffee before our girls wake up. I have a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old, Camilla and Elizabeth. And lately they've been really into waking up at like 5 a.m. and bounding into our room and starting the day before we are ready. And so, like, any morning that I have a chance to sit and drink coffee on the back porch and like kind of see the sun making its way is a really nice morning. But first part of the day is all about getting the girls up, dressed, and out the door. So we have a pretty somewhat consistent morning routine with the girls that we aim to follow, because just like routines are important for us as adults, they are incredibly important for kiddos, because that repetition really helps them start to build those good habits early on. But once the girls are off to school, then I head into my work day, and I'm always experimenting with how I want to approach my work day. There are seasons where I will do coaching calls in the morning and deep work in the afternoon. There are seasons where I'll do deep work in the morning and coaching calls in the afternoon to try and figure out, okay, what works best for me during this season. But I tend to structure my days based on theme days in my week. Like, that's a really big part of how I think about my time. So Mondays, you can find me in front of my laptop writing podcast episodes or doing marketing, because Monday is Marketing Monday. Gotta love some alliteration, right? Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, specifically Tuesdays and Wednesdays, are really blocked out for client work. So you'll find me doing one-on-one time management coaching calls with the VIP members of the It's About Time Academy. I may be doing a group coaching session with the It's About Time Academy. And then Thursdays is really kind of a catch-all day. I do a lot of podcast interviews on that day for other people's shows like this one, or for my own podcast, It's About Time. Sometimes someone may need to reschedule a coaching call to a Thursday. Sometimes it's kind of a catch-all. And then Fridays are really set aside for reflection, for kind of that CEO time, looking at the numbers, doing the finance routine. And if it's an awesome, like nearly perfect day, I'm going to get in a yoga class at around 10:45, because having that time for yoga carved out at the end of my week, it feels like such a reward. It's so recharging and replenishing, and it really gives me something to look forward to.
I love that. I feel like there are so many like elements of that that whether you own your own business and work from home like you do, or you work full time, like a 9 to 5, you leave the house, or maybe you're retired and you're filling your day with like volunteer work or like projects and things that you're trying to get done around the house. Like, I love the concept of theme days. First of all, when did you come up with that?
Oh gosh, I wish I could take credit for that, but I learned about theme days pretty early on in my "let's get your life together" journey, because I think, you know, contrary to what many may believe, I was not born a magical time management unicorn with a perfect time management from day one. I experienced some pretty rough burnout after spending 10 years in crisis communications. It's enough to burn anybody out. And in my process of trying to figure out, okay, how do I get back to myself? How do I get back to spending my time on what matters most? Part of that involved digging into all things time management and like, how do I manage my time in a way that enables me to spend time on what matters most? And so, one of the things that I came across was using theme days to organize the time in your week. And it's something I find that theme days work really well for people who love to have flexible structure. You want to have some structure so you can have some predictability, some consistency, a rhythm, but you don't want things to be so rigid that you feel like you're a slave to your calendar. And so I find theme days to be a great middle ground because, hey, I know that on Monday at some point I'm going to write a podcast episode, but it might be Monday morning, might be a Monday afternoon. We'll see, but it's going to happen.
Right. Yes. And I feel like that also helps. I think we all have things that we are more naturally inclined to do and less naturally inclined to do. And so, carving out the time and hopefully the bulk of the time for the things that really are life-giving, that you enjoy, that you have a lot of purpose in, and then knowing that you have a set aside time for like, okay, I mean, I don't, I have no idea what it is for you. That is like the harder thing to do. But if it is the admin stuff, I mean, if it's sitting and looking at financial reports and all that, and even for those, like just looking at the financial stuff for a home, it doesn't have to be for a business. Knowing that there's a set time you're going to do that.
Mhm.
And it doesn't have to spill into everything else. It's
Yeah.
not every day you have to have a debate with yourself. Do I need to look at those financial reports today? Like, no, I'm going to do that on
Yeah,
Fridays.
that's for Friday. Yeah. And it's great because as humans, we love to procrastinate. We do. Everybody does it. And whenever we are in the middle of something and our brain starts to get bored, because remember, our brains love novelty. We love switching things up. We love, bright colors, and we love, to get that dopamine hit from switching up what we're doing. We'll be in the middle of something and we'll think, oh, well, this is this let me like go check my bank account real quick, or like let me procrastinate by doing a real quick little thing. And whenever you feel tempted to do that, knowing that you have time carved out for it later in the week, you're able to say like, oh, there is a time for this, now is not the time.
Yes, I call it productive procrastination, when
Uh-huh.
you find something productive to
Uh-huh.
do to avoid doing the productive thing that you
Yeah,
should be
the
doing.
thing that you really should be doing. Oh yeah,
Yes. I
we've
feel
all
like
been
it's
there.
a classic example. This was way back in college, but my roommate talks about how, our dorm room was a disaster. I mean, I had, like, laundry hanging on the back of the chair. I mean, it was awful, and I was sitting at my desk color coding my pens. Like, like, I wanted them
Yeah,
all in my desk drawer, and, like,
yeah,
I was cleaning, but not the tornado that had hit our dorm room, just
yeah.
my desk drawer.
Yeah, and it's not just that. What's the first step to studying for finals in college?
Yeah.
Cleaning your entire apartment top to bottom.
Exactly. Yeah, I can't
Yeah,
study in a room that's not clean. Like,
I know. It's that productive procrastination. I should be using flashcards for like formulas, and instead I'm like cleaning behind the
exactly.
refrigerator.
Exactly, yes, and I do think, like, there's such a difference between that and, like, I know for me, if I have, like, dishes out in the kitchen, like, if it's really a mess, there are sometimes I know myself, I know I will work better if I take 20 to 30 minutes and go, like, do a reset, and then I'm like, "Okay, like, now I actually feel at peace." Like, I think just having the discernment to see, like, when is it something that's really serving me, and I truly am let's say I have 2.5 hours. I'm going to have a really productive 2 hours if I spend the first 30 minutes doing whatever it is versus I'm going to spend the first hour and a half putting off doing what I really need to do.
Yeah. That's where a timer really comes in handy. This is This is actually one of my favorite time management tools. And I send these to every new member of the It's About Time Academy because it's a little cube timer, and all you have to do is, like, say you want to set a timer for 30 minutes, you just make 30 minutes face up and the timer just sets itself. And it's so helpful to use a timer like this, or like a physical kitchen timer, as opposed to setting a timer on your phone, because whenever we pick up our phone to set a timer or check a timer, what happens? We compulsively end up on whatever our default, like, distraction app is.
For sure. I love that. That timer is super awesome. So but yeah, just using those life hacks to know yourself, to know what is most likely to distract you, and just kind of to set up those, like kind of guardrails or so to be like, I know that whenever I pick up my phone, I see the 17 emails that have come in, and all of a sudden I need to check all of those and respond to them, or I could just use a timer that I don't have to pick up my phone.
Yes, and that was a huge game changer for my morning routines. Okay, so back before I had kids, I had this amazing morning routine where I did all of the things. It was very similar to Hal Elrod's Miracle Morning, where you would pray and read and exercise and do affirmations and visualizations and all of these things. And I would want to meditate for 10 minutes, or I would want to read a professional development book for X number of minutes. And in the beginning, I was using my phone to set little timers for myself. And then the next thing I know, I would be 15 minutes into scrolling Instagram and not know how I got there. And so I added a little cube timer to I called it my morning routine bag, that had my journal and my book and my timer in it. And that completely kept me on track for those awesome mornings. Now, my mornings don't look like that anymore, because when you've got a 3-year-old who still likes to wake up at 2 a.m., that morning time, I'm going to take all the sleep I can get. But I know I'll get back there someday. This just isn't the season for it. And that's okay.
Exactly. Yeah. So I'm curious, speaking of different seasons, I do think that like what we thrive at and what we maybe struggle with changes with the seasons, but like in your current life season, what would you say are the things that you feel like you really have down? You've got good routines and systems in place, whether it be in your house, just general like house tasks, management, whatever it may be.
Yeah. Okay. So like most people, am a little hard on myself. And I'm like, I don't know if I'm doing anything that well. But if I really think about it, I feel like our mornings actually move pretty smoothly with the girls. I mean, we have a pretty set rhythm that we use with them. We wake up, they tidy their bed. They don't have to make their bed perfectly, but they tidy their bed, they get dressed, we fix their hair, then they eat breakfast, and then we use an Alexa reminder. I'm not going to say it because she's listening. We use a reminder for when it's time to put on shoes, and they know that reminder is coming. They hear it, and that when we're like, okay, it's time to wrap up breakfast, time to put on shoes. And so I feel like we put a lot of intention up front into how can we make our mornings move as smoothly as possible with our girls, so that they can start their day on the right foot. And also, just like I use theme days in my business, we use theme days for laundry and cleaning too. Now, so I'd say that one thing that we're really good at is sticking to our laundry theme days. So I am not interested in spending all weekend doing, 10 loads of laundry, spending hours folding and putting things away. I find that it just works better for our family to do like a category a day. And so we'll do like the girls' clothes on Mondays, and we'll do the adult clothes on Tuesdays. We always wash towels on Wednesdays because it's Wash Towels Wednesday. I mean, come on. And so we have these specific days for each thing, and it kind of shifts the problem solving from when am I going to do laundry to just knowing that there's a certain day for those things to be washed. So I think that those are two things that are going pretty well, mornings with the girls and having that laundry routine.
Yeah, I think that having answers to your own questions in advance is something that makes almost any home routine go better. Whether you're talking about a morning routine or when you're going to do laundry, I mean, if you are wanting, you mentioned reading books. Um I am way more likely to read if I know what book I'm reading.
Oh, yeah,
If
for
I
sure.
have time to sit down and read, but I have to go like, okay, I'm in the middle of six different books. Which one do I want to pick up? But if I'm like, no, like I'm reading this book, I'm going to pick up right where I left off. I'm going to read for 10 minutes. I can actually spend that time reading. Same with what you just said about laundry. It's not, okay, should I do it today or should I do it tomorrow? It's just, here's what I'm going to do today. So, any area that anyone listening might feel like they're struggling with or just kind of needs an overhaul, like try to listen to the questions you're asking yourself and see if you can decide on that answer before the question ever comes up.
Yeah, and how can you make things easy for yourself? I was talking with one of my VIP coaching clients yesterday who really wants to include reading a personal development book in her morning routine. And so first, we looked at, okay, what are other parts in the day that you could do this? Maybe it doesn't have to be in the mornings. But we actually arrived at the fact that no, we really want to make this happen in the mornings. And so then I asked her to really describe the physical movement of her routine. So she starts in one room and then she moves to another room and then she goes to the kitchen and fixes her coffee and then she's supposed to go back to this room, but she usually sits down at the kitchen table and then that's where everything goes haywire. And so that turned into, well, why don't you just read your professional development book at the kitchen table with your coffee? Where does your book live? And she's like, well, my book's over in the other room. And I was like, what would happen if you put your book next to the coffee pot? So you're making your coffee, your book is right there, and it removes this zigzag back and forth across the house that unlocks all kinds of opportunities to get distracted with things along the way.
Exactly. I mean, that's what we talk about. We call it reverse organizing. Whenever you organize based on what you're going to grab first, instead of like, where does it feel like it would fit best? Like, no, what are you going to need to grab when you're at the stove? And I think like that sounds exactly like the same thing with productivity. Like, what is the breakdown and how can we, even if it's unconventional, like, this is your house, this is your life. And so, who cares if your book is next to the coffee machine if that is what's going to make it to where you actually get to read it?
Exactly, exactly. It's like it's one of my past podcast interviews shared that putting a toothbrush in the bathroom next to her back door completely changed her mornings because she realized she was eating breakfast in the kitchen, which is where the back door is, and then going all the way across the house to her main bathroom to brush her teeth. And then she would end up getting thrown off or distracted along the way. So she's like, wait, there's literally a bathroom right here. Why do I not have a toothbrush here? It's so funny the little tweaks that we can make that can make such a huge difference.
Yes, and just trying them. Get toothbrushes aren't expensive. Get a toothbrush, put it in the bathroom or whatever it is. Nothing says you have to stick with it. If you try it and don't like it, I mean, we've all tried things that it was like, okay, that was kind of a flop. But if it's already not working, it's probably going to not work even worse, Like you can't we're already at a point where it's breaking down. So let's try things to try to see what might help it flow better.
Exactly. It's an experiment. And when you approach it as, hey, this is an experiment, let's see what happens, instead of, oh, I have to get this perfectly and it needs to work, it takes the pressure off.
Exactly. Yes, and just not being a perfectionist about our homes or our routines or anything else, giving it a try and realizing also that just because something works for one person does not necessarily mean it will work for you. So like even as you're listening to this, I hope that it's giving you ideas or ways that you can apply these ideas. Like what is your toothbrush, right? It may not be putting a toothbrush in the bathroom closer to your kitchen. And so adapting that for yourself and not thinking that just because one person really excels at reading at the kitchen table or brushing their teeth in the bathroom by the back door, for you it's probably something different.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's one of the biggest frustrations that we encounter when it comes to decluttering, when it comes to time management, is because there are so many off the shelf, step by step methods that say, do it this way and it will work. But There is not a personality exam. There's not like a personality assessment at the beginning of most of these books to even tell you if this method is going to work with the way that you think. Everything has to be adapted, which can be really tough to adapt, to kind of wrap your head around, okay, well, like, what am I adapting? How do I adapt it? When do I adapt it? How much should I adapt and expect it to still work? And then if you can always just reframe it as it's an experiment. All of this is an experiment and an adventure.
Yeah. I love how you said that there's not a personality assessment. Not every book was written to every person. It
No.
was written to a specific type of person, and
Mhm.
part of the reason there are so many ideas out there. So many ways to organize, so many ways to manage your time, so many ways even with some of these like improvement books that you want to read. They're
Yeah,
very different from each other
they
because
are.
everyone naturally excels and struggles in different areas. And so taking what works for you and leaving the rest is really a skill. I think that we want everyone to agree with us, everyone to like do things the same way that we do, and we want to do the things the same way everyone else does. And like, it's part of the beauty of us all being unique. It means that we're all going to do things a little differently.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So, speaking of, we talk a lot on this podcast about our strengths and our struggles. So, are there areas where you're like, oh man, this does not go super smoothly in our home?
Okay, so this is embarrassing, but I'm just gonna straight up admit it. So, I love theme days, and Tuesdays are supposed to be toilet and tub Tuesdays,
Hey, it's
okay?
alliteration even.
I
Like, it's
I I you know,
perfect.
I love alliteration. Tuesdays are really supposed to be dedicated to making sure that the bathroom is clean, that counters are, like, all wiped down, mirrors are clean, and that the shower is cleaned. But I always run out of time
On
bef
Tuesdays.
before I get to the shower, and I just that's, like, the worst thing to me is, everybody I will clean a toilet all day long. I don't understand it, but, like, I hate cleaning our showers. Our shower like, we have a glass door shower, and, like, the floor has these tiles that are, like they look like rocks, and I don't know, I just, like that's the thing that I really struggle at is making myself do that, and it's so funny because, like, as a time management coach, I understand all of the tricks and the strategies around creating habits and give yourself a reward, and then the, like, intrinsic reward shows up, but it's just like, yeah, it's real hard for me.
Yeah, I feel like that goes to show that, like, if the tricks and the habits and the hacks aren't working, like, there are some things that are just more naturally difficult for some people, right? And so, like, not every trick is going to solve every problem. I
No, it's not.
Yes, you may not be able to, like, reward yourself enough into, cleaning the shower, for
I
instance.
know. I'd say, like, "Don't tell anybody," but now everybody knows.
But now everyone knows. It's okay. Part of the thing here is everyone has their strengths and weaknesses. They have the things that are really easy and the things that are a struggle. And even in talking to people throughout this podcast, because I ask everyone, right? I ask everyone, what is it that you're not good at? It's a great way to make friends,
Right.
even as an icebreaker at a party. But I hear from so many people who I mean, you'd be surprised how many people it's some cleaning thing, right? It's
Yeah.
something like, I don't like doing this or that, and how they are learning from other people, like how other people manage it. And I think it's easy. We live in such, a social world and we talk about it all the time, like the whole comparison thing and all of that. But like, it is really hard to not even subconsciously slip into the idea that like everyone else is doing it better than
Oh,
me. Like
100%.
you
Yeah.
have your theme days and I'm over here like, man, if I could do laundry ever in the week, and just hearing that, especially the people that you listen to online. I mean, naturally so. They're going to share about the things that are their strong suits. You're not going to share a shower cleaning routine because you would be like, I don't have one. Try to make yourself do it sometimes. And I just think it helps realize that we are all more similar than we think that we are. And for anyone who might just feel like, man, I hear from all these people and they have all these great ideas and it almost makes me feel down on myself. Like, why can I not do it? We all have things we're not doing well.
Yeah, we all. Like, can you imagine if we were all good at everything?
It'd
Like,
be so boring.
that wouldn't even make sense.
Yes. Yes. So, all that to say, we all have things that we struggle with, and, I'll be curious, like, I wanna like, we need to do, like, a follow-up episode, like, year from now and be like, "Did anything change
Is
throughout
your shower
2025?"
clean? And
Yes.
hopefully I'll say, "Yes,
Did
because
you find a
I
hack that
hired a
worked?
housekeeper."
And that may be this answer. I've talked to some people and they were like, "And I decided that it was not worth it, that this was not gonna work, and so it was more important to me to spend the time making the money to pay for someone to come clean my shower," you
Yep.
know?
I think that's where we're going. I think that's what I'm aiming for. I think that's gonna be the goal.
Absolutely, and embracing that. Like, not resisting, not saying, "I feel like everyone else can clean their shower, why can't I clean my shower?" Like, I if you keep fighting the same fight the same way, it's gonna keep being frustrating, and think about, like, the mental energy that you spend being frustrated with yourself that the shower isn't clean, thinking, "What productive procrastination can I do on Tuesdays to make sure I run out of time to clean the
Right,
shower?"
exactly. How slow can I wipe down this counter to run out of
Exactly.
time? Mhm.
"Oh, man, I don't think we're gonna make it again today."
Oh, I
So
need to reorganize my hair products.
exactly. Exactly. But, like, some people would call that recognizing defeat, but I think it's actually recognizing success.
I
Like,
love that. Yeah.
what you're gonna succeed in is just delegating that.
Yeah, love that
Like,
reframe. Yeah, that's where we're going. So, when we
and
touch
think of
base
all
in a
the things that
year.
you're good at, right? Like, if there's one area, if you're like, "Man, cleaning the bathrooms, I can't stand cleaning the bathrooms, and so once a week or every other week, I'm gonna hire someone to come clean my bathrooms." Well, if you're great at your laundry. You don't need to hire someone to come do your laundry. They don't have to do everything because you have that down pat. And so realizing that, like, it's okay to delegate or find help in the areas that it's not gonna be a strength in this season.
Yeah, let's just do that. I love that.
Definitely. I love that too. So, I ask everyone on this podcast as well, what is one thing that is bringing you less stress and more peace right now?
Honestly, the one thing that is bringing me less stress and more peace, and it's really funny because on the topic of delegation, it's my amazing virtual assistant, Erin. I am so grateful for her because sh there are so many moving pieces in my schedule right now. I am speaking, I am traveling, I am giving virtual presentations, I'm doing podcast interviews for my podcast and others' podcasts. I'm serving my coaching clients. I'm going to the Thanksgiving feast at my daughter's school tomorrow because we're recording this, yeah, in November. And there's so many moving parts and pieces. And there was a time about 6 months ago when I was spending so much time rescheduling things and moving things around and asking people for dates and trying to get my calendar figured out. And clearly as a time management coach, like my calendar is is like the ultimate guide to my life. I mean, that's I my calendar is everything. And having someone on my team, having someone who can help me with all of those moving parts and pieces so I don't have to carry all of that weight in addition to showing up in the places that I show up. That gives me so much more peace and reduces my stress. I know that, you know, having a virtual assistant doesn't necessarily make sense for everyone. I mean, if you work at a full-time job as a professional, which is what I did before starting a business, I had to I had to treat my calendar like it was an assistant, putting all of the information in my calendar. Of course, I had a lot less moving parts then, but really not just using my calendar as a place to store birthdays and schedule meetings, but to use it to create space for things like going to yoga, things like prepping birthday cards, things like checking in on friends and family. Really, now I have that help, that support in the form of Erin, my amazing virtual assistant. But even if I didn't have her, it would be really treating that calendar like they're a personal assistant so that that calendar can do the thinking for me. So, um, yeah, that's something right now in this really busy, abundant, full, and fulfilling season that is just giving me so much more peace.
Yeah, and that really comes full circle to what we were just talking about too, with finding the areas where things are feeling more stressed, things are feeling strained, or it's just not your strong suit, and seeing like what options are there. I mean, I think it is worthwhile, even if you're the kind of person and you're listening and you're like, I could never hire someone to help with XYZ problem, whether it is someone to help with cleaning or someone to help with scheduling or someone to help with childcare or someone to help with running errands, whether it's using a service like Instacart to have your groceries delivered, like whatever it is, like I think it's Emily P. Freeman. She does the Next Right Thing podcast who talks about trying on a decision. So, like, you don't really have to make the decision, but like, just allow yourself to think, even for a day. Like, pretend that that's what you decided. Like, how does it feel if that's what you decided? And just entertain the idea, I guess is what I'm saying. So,
It's so interesting because yep, I'm a time management coach. I know how to manage a calendar. I used to be a scheduler and manage a calendar for a member of Congress. Like, I know how to do that. But it became, is all of that administrative work the best use of my time? And I think that a lot of time as women, whether it's in our homes, I think it's especially in our homes, in our businesses, in our work, we tend to believe that if we're not doing everything ourselves, then it doesn't count. If we're not doing everything ourselves, then we're not doing enough. And it honestly, it takes me back to grade school when you weren't supposed to, share answers with a friend, that you're supposed to keep your eyes on your own paper. But life is not keeping your eyes on your own paper. Life is collaborating, life is sharing what works. Life is an open book test. It's like an open book experience because it's not a test at all. And so we've got to rewire this belief that we have to do everything or else it doesn't count. Like, you can be a good mom and have a mother's helper come to your house in the afternoons to help with the hectic after school hours. You can be an amazing wife and homekeeper and outsource someone cleaning your shower. Like, that doesn't take away from you being the best version of yourself in those different roles if you just have a little bit of support. It in fact, it enables you to show up even better.
and I like what you said about how you had to outsource something that you were good at. Like we were talking about like with the shower, like okay, that one, that's might be a struggle area, but you're really good at managing a calendar. Like you know exactly how to do it. And I think one thing that goes hand in hand with that is recognizing that other people are going to do it differently and different can still be good and it's going to look different and feel different and all of the things than if you did it yourself, and like allowing that to be the way it is. Cause I know for me, sometimes, like, even if it's just with my own husband, like he's gonna wash the dishes for me or something. And I should be able to just be like, oh man, thank you so much, for offering to do that and for being so like kind. Like you've had a really busy day too. And like you are gonna take the next 15 minutes and wash the dishes. And it's so easy instead to be like, well, why'd you load the dishwasher that way? Like we could have put more things in the dishwasher and you wouldn't have had to hand wash so many things. Like if we rearranged this, but like it doesn't have to look the way that it would have looked if I did it. Like giving other people the autonomy to do it differently and it's still all perfectly functional and fine because I know for me like that is an area if I ask other people to share where they struggle, I'll share where I struggle too, right? Like just letting things be different than if I had done them myself, and that's perfectly fine. I mean, you know what? The dishes got washed, the shower got cleaned, the schedule got made, whatever it is.
Yeah, exactly. It's okay if someone else does something for you that's maybe at a B plus level, and because it means that you didn't have to give your time to doing it. That's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Anna, thank you so much for coming and chatting with us today. So I want to put in our show notes where people can go to learn more from you. So can you just like give us a quick rundown of where that would be?
Of course. So if you've, listened in today and you're feeling maybe overwhelmed with all of the possibilities, I have a training course, a video training course called Blueprint to Balance that is all about creating your version of balance, stepping away from the overwhelm and creating your version of balance. And I'd love to give it to you for free. And you can actually head over to blueprinttobalance.com and sign up for it and dive in and create your blueprint to balance. But otherwise, I would be so thrilled if you would tune into my podcast. It's about time. I have new episodes that go live every single Monday. We talk about work, life, and balance. I share tangible tips, and I ask women a lot of questions about how they are doing life, because I want to peel back the curtain and see, wait, how are you doing all of these things? What is working for you? So that we can all learn from it and pull from it what feels right. So, wherever you listen to podcasts, hop over to It's About Time. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button so that you don't miss the next episode when it goes live.
Awesome. Well, we will include all the links to that in the show notes. And thank you again for sitting down with us today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This has been so much fun.
Well, thank you so much for tuning in to mine and Anna's conversation today. I hope that you found some helpful tidbits that you can take and start applying right away to have less stress and more peace. Be sure to check out Anna's podcast. Can't wait to see you next week.